Welcome back, guys. So on today's agenda, we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish the 10.7 notes. And then for homework after this lesson is over is going to be a Google form. By the end of class today, you should be able to create equations that represent a circle. That's your goal. So example number 3, the point -5, 6 is on the circle with the center of -1, 3. Write the standard equation of a circle, then graph the circle. Okay, so remember for the standard equation of a circle, we need two things. We need to know the center point and we need to know the radius. Now, we're given the center point in the problem. The component that we're missing is the radius. However, given that we have a point on the circle and where the center is, we can calculate what the radius is using the distance formula. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the fact that distance between 2 points is the square root of the quantity of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus the quantity of y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. So I'm going to go ahead and first take my 2 points that I was given. I'm going to label them x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. And you guys could have done this vice versa in your labeling and you still would get the same result at the very end. As I go through this formula, you're going to notice that I'm not going to have the square root there only because I'm using Google Slides and it's difficult for me to get that square root symbol in there. So I'm going to go through the steps without it until I get to the very end, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to substitute back in my values. X sub 2 is -1, and then x sub 1 is -5. So I have -1 minus -5 squared plus, and then y sub 2 is 3, and then y sub 1 is 6. So 3 minus 6, and then squaring that value. For that first one, I'm going to show how if I have minus and negative, it turns into an addition. And so I have -1 plus 5 squared plus 3 minus 6 squared. -1 plus 5 is 4 squared plus 3 minus 6 is -3 squared. 4 squared is 16, and then -3 squared is 9. 16 plus 9 is 25. Now notice when I got to my final step after I just have my one number, I went ahead and I put in that square root sign that's there for the distance formula. So the square root of 25 is equal to plus or minus 5. So that tells me that my radius is 5 units. So now that I have my radius and I know my center of my circle, I can go ahead and substitute in my center point and my radius into my equation. So again, my radius we calculated was 5, and we're given the center point of -1, 3. I'm going to go ahead and label that -1, 3 as my h, k, and then I have my r value of 5. So now I can go ahead and thinking about my general equation for a circle, I'm going to go ahead and substitute back in my points that I know, and then one that I solved for. So I'm going to have x minus -1 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals r squared. And then here I know minus the -1 is going to really give me +1, and then I have -3, and then I went ahead and I showed my radius of 5. Technically I should have done the extra step of showing that 5 squared is 25, so it should be the quantity of x plus 1 squared plus the quantity of y minus 3 squared is equal to 25.